I'm Brad, the Solar Guy. I'm here to answer all your questions about residential solar. In this video, I'm going to explain how net metering works, and that is a key component for solar working. So many states in the United States do not offer net metering, but a lot do, and it's a big advantage if you want to go solar. So let me explain how it works. So solar is only producing electricity when the sun is shining. It does not work at night. This is obvious when you think about it, but then you think, well, okay, if I have solar connected to my house, then where am I getting my electricity from when a cloud comes over or at night? And the answer is you get it from the grid. And it happens automatically. So there's nothing for you to do. There's no switches for you to throw. You just use electricity as normal after you get solar because you are still connected to the utility. And the utility operates as your uninterrupted power supply. And that's important so that you can just use electricity when you want to and need to. Now, the solar will produce electricity when the sun is shining, and when it does so, your house is going to use that electricity as it comes in. Now, if it doesn't produce enough electricity, it will automatically augment and grab some electricity from the grid. And when a cloud comes over, it will do that. At night, it will take electricity exclusively from the grid. In the winter, it will have to probably use more electricity from the grid. And in the summer, less. And at certain times, it won't have to use any. And in fact, it's likely that during the summer months, you will have days or maybe even whole months where you produce more electricity than the house uses. So when that's happening live, the house uses all the electricity the solar is producing. It doesn't need any more. The excess actually goes back through your meter. Your meter runs backwards and it physically feeds your neighbors. And they don't know it, but they're using your solar electricity. The utility is just charging them as normal, and they don't even know where it's coming from, but that's how it's actually physically working. And then for you, the way it's physically working, when you're sending extra electricity out, it is running the meter backwards, but then also, of course, at night and other times, you'll be sucking some in. So again, overall, in the summer, it's likely with solar that you will produce in a month more than you have produced. And in many states that do regular straight net metering, what will happen is your utility bill will reflect that net metering every month. So it will work something like this. You'll get a bill that'll look just like a regular electric bill that you would have normally gotten, where it had the number of kilowatt hours multiplied out by the supply rate and the delivery rate. And we can get into those differences in another video because that's an important thing to understand about your electric bill. But anyway, in terms of what they normally charge you, they take the number of kilowatt hours, they multiply it by the supply rate and the delivery rate, and then they charge you. And then there might be other fees as well. So when you get a net metered bill, you would have a negative number of kilowatt hours, right? So if you produced 1,000 kilowatt hours in the month of June, say, but you only used 500, you would get a bill that said negative 500 kilowatt hours. They would multiply it out by all the same delivery and supply charges. They would then actually deduct out the monthly charge, so they kind of get you there. But you would end up with a credit for those extra kilowatt hours that's a dollar amount credit on your electric bill, calculated at the rate you were paying at the time. So the supply and the delivery rate at the time that you did that, the month you did that, that's how much they credit you. And this is an amazing and important system, especially here in the Northeast, where solar produces a lot more in the summer than it does in the winter. We need to be able to shift that extra production in the summer to the winter in order to try to cover all of your usage for the whole year. Not that we always can, but we certainly, that's usually the goal. So this system works wonderfully. It shifts that excess production from the summer to the winter, which a battery physically wouldn't be able to do, but it acts like a battery, or like rollover minutes used to, for those of you who remember rollover minutes from cell phones. Anyway, so now there's all sorts of caveats to how these charges work, and net metering doesn't always give you full credit like that. It can work differently. It can true up every month, or it can true up every year. Here in Massachusetts, the credit can last forever, but they do kind of claw it back a little bit in a couple of different ways. One of the ways they do that is with a monthly charge. So right now across the state, the monthly charge for most utilities is between $7 and $10 a month. You have to pay that even, if you have solar. So if you produced exactly the amount of electricity that you used with net metering and everything, you'd still owe that $10 a month to the utility, if that makes sense. So if you used 10,000 kilowatt hours and produced 10,000 kilowatt hours, you would think it would all cancel out, but you'd still owe that monthly charge. So that's important to understand. So you'd have to produce extra electricity here in Massachusetts in order to also cover that monthly charge and owe the utility no dollars for a whole year. Now, of course, we can't predict your usage or the solar exactly, so, we're just talking theoretically here. But theoretically, you'd have to produce more than you used in order to cover your whole bill. In fact, you definitely would. So another way that they kind of claw it back is that you are going to net meter here in Massachusetts in the summer at summer rates. Now, summer rates are lower almost always than winter rates are. We have two rate changes a year for summer and for winter, and often the winter rate is quite a bit higher. It did not used to be a big deal because when rates were 15 cents in the summer and 16 or 17 cents in the winter, no one really even noticed what I'm about to explain. But now that rates can be 30 cents in the summer or 32 cents in the summer and 40 or almost 50 cents in the winter, there's a giant gap between those two things. So what happens with solar is you net meter at the summer rate at 32 cents or whatever it is, and then you have to spend it at 40 cents or 44 cents or whatever that year's rate is, and we don't, we never know exactly. So it eats into your net metering credits. So in order to cover your whole bill, you have, say you use 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. In order to cover that whole bill, you would have to produce more than that. We don't know exactly how much more, but I'm recommending at least 10% over, and really more 15 or 20% more if your property or roof can produce that much electricity. And that way you're likely to not have to buy electricity from your utility. I'm hoping this makes sense. If you do go solar and you get electric bills from utility, if you don't produce enough electricity to cover your whole bill with the net metering, your usage and the monthly charge, what happens is you'll get an electric bill in the winter, right? So my first year with solar, we built a house and we put up the max size solar that we could at the time, which was a 10 kW inverter, and we put a 12.3 kW or 13 kW system behind it. That was the recommended size at the time for the technology. And our first 2 years in the house, we just got one electric bill a year, and it was in March. It was a big fat electric bill because the house is all electric. It was built to have solar on it, but we didn't have quite enough. So I wasn't mad at the solar because I got that big fat electric bill. The solar was doing its job. It was actually, outperforming what we had predicted by a little bit, and it was fantastic. But I didn't have enough, so I still had to buy some electricity from the utility, and that would come at the end of the winter before the sun came back up in the spring because of the way the net metering credits work. And then I got an electric vehicle. And then for the next several years, I had electric bills in January, February, and March. And that wasn't ideal. Luckily, they changed the rules and I was able to put more solar up. So I own the first system, but I actually leased my second system. It's been on for about 4 months. And so now I don't pay the utility anything, which is fantastic. I hope this is helpful for explaining how net metering works. Please let me know your questions in the comments. Have a great day.